Mark Reynolds and Sarah Mitchell never imagined their morning commute would turn into a nightmare. When a lone shooter rampaged through Midtown Manhattan, claiming he was hunting for the NFL headquarters, what drove this man to violence, and what dark secrets was he desperate to expose? The morning had started like any other in Midtown Manhattan, crowds of people flowing in and out of office buildings. The steady hum of traffic and the usual clatter of city life. But that calm routine shattered in an instant when gunshots rang out near a towering glass building that many believed was the NFL headquarters. Panic erupted as the sharp cracks of the gunfire echoed through the streets, sending workers and commuters scrambling for cover. People dropped to the pavement, clutching their phones or seeking refuge behind parked cars and street vendors' stalls. The sound of sirens grew louder as police and emergency medical teams rushed to the chaotic scene. The initial moments after the shooting were confusion itself. Witnesses described a man moving quickly through the crowd, firing a handgun with precision but without any clear target. Some people were struck, while others escaped with nothing more than the shock of what had just happened. The injured were quickly attended to and rushed to nearby hospitals, their wounds a grim reminder of the sudden violence that had invaded the city's heart. As the dust settled, authorities began to piece together what had happened. The man who opened fire appeared to be acting alone. Surveillance cameras showed a figure dressed in dark clothes, blending into the morning rush, but moving with a determined purpose. What puzzled the investigators most was the location. This building was not the actual NFL headquarters, which was located miles away. Yet the shooter seemed convinced that this was where he needed to be. Police discovered the shooter had been asking bystanders about the NFL offices shortly before the shooting, as if searching for something or someone. But no one could say what exactly he wanted or why he chose this particular spot to unleash violence. The incident raised more questions than answers. Why was he there? Was the attack random, or was there a specific target in mind? As officers secured the area and collected evidence, news spread fast. The media dubbed the event the Midtown Manhattan shooting, linking it to the NFL simply because of the location. Speculation grew rapidly, fueled by social media and eyewitness accounts that painted a picture of a confused but dangerous man. People wondered if the shooting was tied to the NFL in some way, or if the location was merely a coincidence. Amid the chaos, the city's sense of safety was shaken. Midtown Manhattan was supposed to be a hub of business and culture, a place where millions crossed paths every day without fear. The shooting was a harsh reminder that violence could erupt anywhere at any time and without warning. Residents and workers debated what had triggered such an attack, many feeling uneasy about the man's true motives. As investigators worked tirelessly, the story remained unfinished. The building itself showed no sign of permanent damage, but the emotional scars ran deep. Police urged the public to remain calm while they searched for answers. Every detail mattered, from the shooter's movements to his reasons for targeting this particular spot. The morning that began like any other in Midtown had ended with shock and a haunting mystery, one that would soon unfold in ways nobody expected. After the chaos of the shooting settled, the police launched an intense manhunt to find the shooter and uncover his motives. Investigators combed through hours of surveillance footage from nearby buildings, street cameras, and even private security systems. They tracked the man's every step leading up to the attack, piecing together a timeline that revealed a strange and unsettling pattern. The shooter appeared to arrive in Midtown early in the morning, walking with purpose, but stopping frequently to ask strangers questions. His focus was clear. He was looking for the NFL headquarters, but he seemed confused about its exact location. Witnesses who encountered the man described him as calm but intense, with a distant look in his eyes. He wasn't aggressive until the shooting began, which left investigators wondering about what triggered such violence. The police learned that the man had no criminal history and was not previously known to law enforcement. His identity remained a mystery for several days, but they finally traced him through a subway ticket and some credit card records. He was identified as a middle-aged man who had recently fallen on hard times. Friends and family said he had lost his job a few months earlier and had grown increasingly isolated. Officers searched his apartment and found a collection of notes, newspaper clippings, and scribbled pages filled with anger and frustration. Many of the writings centered around football executives and their decisions. The man appeared convinced that those running the NFL were involved in corrupt activities that directly harmed him and countless others. There were references to rigged games, unfair contracts, and secret deals made behind closed doors. Though much of it seemed like rambling, the detailed notes suggested a deep obsession with exposing what he saw as a hidden truth. The more the detectives uncovered, the more they realized this was not a random act of violence, but the desperate act of a man driven by belief in a cause. His notebook hinted at months of planning. Police began to suspect that the shooter's attack was meant to send a message, not just create chaos. However, the exact target remained unclear. Why choose the wrong building? Was it a sign of confusion or something more? The investigation also uncovered that the man had been researching the NFL extensively online, tracking executive meetings and public appearances. He had attended several public events related to football, but was always on the fringe, watching from a distance. His recent behavior showed signs of increasing paranoia. Friends mentioned he had spoken about taking matters into his own hands, though they never expected violence. As the manhunt intensified, authorities focused on understanding his mindset. Psychologists brought in to analyze the case noted that obsession combined with personal loss could create dangerous situations when left unchecked. They hoped to learn from this case to prevent similar incidents in the future. Meanwhile, the public watched closely, fascinated and fearful about the man behind the attack and what had pushed him over the edge. Police released limited information, urging anyone with knowledge about the shooter's plans or associates to come forward. The city was on high alert, especially around sports venues and NFL-related locations. Questions swirled in the media and community. Was this an isolated incident fueled by a troubled individual, or was there a larger conspiracy? The truth remained buried in the man's troubled mind, waiting to be uncovered. As the days passed, the investigation deepened. Detectives continued to untangle the story of a man whose personal failures and conspiracy theories collided in a violent outburst, setting off a chain of events that would shake Midtown Manhattan and the NFL world forever. As investigators dug deeper into the shooter's background and motives, an unexpected revelation began to surface. What had initially appeared as the random act of a disgruntled man grew into a complex web of suspicion and intrigue. The shooter was not simply angry at the NFL because of personal misfortune. He believed he was onto something much bigger. According to his notes and online activity, he was convinced that a secret faction within the NFL was involved in illegal activities that extended far beyond the football field. Rumors had long swirled about underground betting rings, manipulated games, and executive corruption, but nothing had ever been proven. The shooter's obsession centered around these whispers, and he had spent months compiling information that he believed exposed a network of deception. His target, he thought, was the nerve center of this shadow operation. The hidden offices of NFL insiders who allegedly controlled not only the games, but also large sums of illicit money. This clandestine part of the NFL was a mystery to the public and to many in law enforcement. The shooting location, mistakenly believed by the man to be the NFL headquarters, was actually close to an old, unmarked building rumored to house these secretive operations. Whether the man knew this for certain or was acting on guesswork was unclear. Police soon realized the attack was about terrorizing random people, but was a dangerous attempt to confront what he saw as the root of a widespread conspiracy. Officials working on the case faced a new challenge, verifying whether any of the shooter's claims had truth behind them. Internal sources within the NFL denied all allegations, describing them as baseless and defamatory. Still, the investigation prompted a quiet internal review by the league. Authorities quietly looked into the possibility of illegal gambling connections and suspicious financial dealings, even though nothing concrete emerged publicly. Meanwhile, the man's family and friends expressed shock, but also sadness, saying they never expected his suspicions to spiral into violence. They described him as a once hopeful individual who had become consumed by bitterness and conspiracy theories after a series of setbacks. The line between fact and fiction had blurred for him, leading to a dangerous and tragic conclusion. Public interest in the case grew as news outlets picked up on the twist involving secret NFL offices and alleged corruption. People debated online about the reality of such hidden power and the lengths some might go to expose it. The story captured the imagination of many who had always wondered if the world of professional sports was more than just a game. The police remained cautious, but determined to separate truth from paranoia. The case revealed the risks of obsession and the power of unverified rumors. It also showed how a single man's desperate beliefs could lead to violent consequences, endangering innocent lives. As the investigation continued, authorities discovered that the shooter's notes included detailed maps and contact lists suggesting he was planning more than just the shooting. His intentions had been to expose a secret that many in the public didn't even know existed. Whether this was a twisted form of justice or madness was still debated. The hidden side of the NFL, whether real or imagined, remained a shadowy figure in the story. The shooting was no longer just a crime scene in Midtown Manhattan. It was a window into a world of secrecy, suspicion, and the dangers of obsession. The truth behind the shooter's claims stayed locked away, fueling a mystery that haunted the city long after the gunfire ended. Days after the shooting, the police received a crucial tip that put the investigation on a new track. A witness reported seeing the shooter near a nearby subway station shortly after the attack, carrying a small bag and moving nervously through the crowd. Officers quickly surrounded the area, coordinating a careful approach to avoid any further violence. When they confronted the man, they found him clutching the bag tightly. Inside were stacks of papers, some handwritten notes, and what appeared to be a small device. The tension was high as the officers moved in, but it soon became clear the device was harmless, a homemade gadget with no explosive capability. Rather than resisting arrest, the man cooperated quietly, using written notes to communicate his intentions. He expressed a desire to reveal what he believed were deep secrets hidden within the NFL. The documents he carried were filled with names, dates, and references to meetings and deals that he claimed proved the existence of illegal activities. His urgency suggested he had been planning to expose this information publicly, possibly through a media outlet or whistleblower platform. Authorities recognized that while the shooter's methods were violent and unacceptable, the materials he possessed could not be ignored. Police and federal agents began analyzing the documents in detail, searching for any factual basis or leads that might point to corruption or wrongdoing. This opened a new front in the investigation, shifting some focus toward the NFL and its operations. The man was taken into custody without incident, and a thorough psychological evaluation was ordered. Experts noted that his mental state was fragile, shaped by isolation, obsession, and desperation. Despite his violent actions, he was viewed not simply as a criminal, but also as a troubled individual driven by belief and anger. The evaluation aimed to understand his mindset and assess his risk moving forward. Meanwhile, the NFL faced intense scrutiny. Officials issued statements denying all allegations and promising full cooperation with any inquiries. However, the league's reputation took a hit as rumors of corruption and secret dealings resurfaced in the media. Investigators quietly examined financial records, betting patterns, and internal communications, hoping to either confirm or dispel the shooter's accusations. No definitive evidence of criminal activity was found publicly, but the investigation prompted the NFL to tighten security and transparency measures. The city remained on edge, people worried about potential copycat incidents or further violence related to the case. Police increased patrols around key sports venues and office buildings associated with the NFL. The shooting had not only shaken Midtown Manhattan, but also sparked a broader conversation about the pressures and controversies within professional sports. Despite the man's arrest, his story continued to captivate the public. The idea that hidden forces could manipulate something as popular and beloved as football added a layer of intrigue and distrust. Some sympathized with the shooter's frustration, seeing him as a tragic figure fighting against an unfair system. Others condemned his actions as reckless and dangerous, a reminder of how obsession can lead to tragedy. The documents recovered from the bag fueled ongoing investigations and media coverage. While no explosive revelations emerged, the situation forced a closer look at the NFL's inner workings. The league responded by implementing new policies aimed at increasing transparency and preventing corruption. The shooter's arrest marked the end of the immediate threat, but the case remained open. Authorities continued to follow leads, uncovering new details about the man's life and the information he had gathered. The episode left lasting questions about justice, truth, and the consequences of desperation in a world filled with secrets. Midtown Manhattan slowly returned to normal, but the shadow of that tense morning lingered. The shooting was a stark reminder of how far a person could go when pushed by belief, fear, and a desire for answers. The city, the NFL, and the nation grappled with the mystery that had been brought into the light, yet still. Some parts remained hidden in the shadows. With the shooter in custody and the immediate threat neutralized, the city began to grapple with the aftermath of the violent morning in Midtown Manhattan. Though the man's attack had ended, the questions it raised lingered heavily in the air. Was he a criminal, acting out of madness? Or was he a desperate whistleblower trying to expose a hidden truth? The line between victim and villain blurred, and the public found itself divided over what to believe. The NFL publicly condemned the shooting and denied all accusations of corruption and illegal activity. Yet, the league quietly launched internal audits and reviews, signaling that even if no wrongdoing was proven, the allegations had struck a nerve. This move was designed to reassure fans and sponsors that the league remained transparent and accountable. But for many, the idea that such dark secrets could exist in the world of professional football had already planted a seed of doubt. The shooter's trial became a focal point for media attention. His defense argued that he was mentally ill, overwhelmed by personal failures and conspiracy theories, and not fully responsible for his actions. Prosecutors painted a picture of a dangerous individual whose obsession led him to violence, putting innocent lives at risk. The courtroom drama unfolded with intense scrutiny, highlighting issues of mental health, justice, and the consequences of unchecked obsession. Outside the legal battle, discussions spread beyond courtrooms and newsrooms. Experts debated how society could better recognize and help individuals like the shooter before they reached a breaking point. The case became a warning about the dangers of isolation and misinformation, especially in a world where rumors and conspiracy theories spread easily online. Mental health advocates pushed for greater awareness and resources to prevent tragedies sparked by obsession and despair. In the months following the shooting, the city worked to heal. Memorials were quietly held for the victims, and survivors faced the long road of recovery. Business returned to the Midtown area, but the memory of that day remained etched in the minds of many. The incident had revealed vulnerabilities not just in security, but also in the fragile balance of trust between institutions and the public. The NFL, while never publicly confirming any misconduct, made subtle changes behind the scenes. New policies were introduced to monitor gambling activities more closely, and executives underwent additional training to prevent conflicts of interest. These actions, though not advertised widely, were seen by some insiders as responses to the pressure created by the shooting and the investigation that followed. Despite these efforts, the mystery at the heart of the case stayed unresolved. The shooter's claims about secret dealings and illegal operations within the NFL were never fully proven or disproven. The man himself remained a figure of controversies, saw him as a dangerous criminal, others as a tragic man crushed by forces beyond his control. The shooting in Midtown Manhattan became a chilling reminder of how obsession, fear, and desperation can collide with real-world consequences. It exposed the fragility of trust in powerful institutions and showed how deeply people can be affected by feelings of injustice. The story lingered as a cautionary tale about the need for transparency, mental health support, and the dangers of letting suspicion spiral into violence. Years later, the case continued to spark conversations and debates. Though the gunfire had long ceased, the questions remained. What really happened behind the scenes in the world of professional football, and what drives a person to take such drastic action in search of answers? The Midtown Manhattan shooting was more than a crime. It was a complex human tragedy woven into the fabric of a city and a sport millions loved, but perhaps never truly understood.